Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Vrajanath अष्टोदशत श्रीमद शिला अभय चरणारविंद भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य शिला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंद. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Srimati Jayapataka Swami Niti Namane Namo Acharya Padaya Nitaya Guru Namadaya Nagaragram Tani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashnaya Bhutale Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachani Meni Vishesha Shanyavadi Kashani Shani. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 2, Remembrance of Lord Krishna, text number 29. Text number 29. We'll all do Mangal Charan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vangsha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devem Saraswatem Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagvat Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakte Bhavati Nashtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Text 29. Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Ranadvenurari Ramat, Ranadvenurari Ramat. Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Ranadvenurari Ramat, Ranadvenurari Ramat. Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Saeva Godhanam Lakshmya, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Niketam Sita Govrisham, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Charayan Anugan Gopan, Ranadvenurari Ramat, Ranadvenurari Ramat. Word for word. Saha, he, Lord Krishna, eva, certainly, Godhanam, the treasure of cows, Lakshmya, by opulence, Niketam, reservoir, Sita Govrisham, beautiful cows and bulls, Charayan, herding, Anugan, the followers, Gopan, coward boys, Ranat, blowing, Venu, flute, Hari, Ramat, enlivened. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Chanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. Purport. As he grew to 6 and 7 years old, The Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing grounds. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows. And according to Vedic economics, one is considered to be a rich man by the strength of his store of grains and cows. With only these two things, cows and grains, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society need only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things which are not needed. Lord Krishna, as the teacher of human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community or the Vaishyas should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. According to Smriti regulation, the cow is the mother and the bull the father of human beings. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns for the children just as the bull tills the ground to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. It is mentioned herein that the beautiful cows and bulls were of various checkered colors, red, black, green, yellow, ash, etc. And because of their colors and healthy smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivening. Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friends such transcendental pleasure that they would forget all the talks of the Brahmanda, which is so praised by the impersonalists. These cowherd boys, as will be explained by Sukadev Goswami, were living entities who had accumulated heaps of pious acts and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person and were hearing his transcendental flute. Brahma Samhita 5.30 confirms the Lord's blowing his transcendental flute. Venum kvanantam aravinda dalayataksham barhavatam samasitam buddhasundarangam kandarpakoti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud, although his bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cupids. These are special features of the Lord. Jai. Hare Krishna. It's amazing how Srila Prabhupada takes such a simple shloka and goes so deep into it. We'll read the translation again. While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. So one interesting thing here we see in Srila Prabhupada's translation, and that is why we always try to understand the mood of the Samstapaka Acharya, is that here he uses the word beautiful bulls, although the shloka will say Godhanam. So Gau meaning, in the translation Srila Prabhupada writes cows, treasure of cows. But here in the translation he is explicitly talking about the bulls. And the reason why Srila Prabhupada picks this up in the purport, he expands on it, is that nowadays in our economic model, the bull is actually killed. There are certain ethical places that give milk, so they don't kill the cows, but they kill the bulls. The bulls will be killed. And so we have, luckily in the temple, we have this mother cow dairy, and we have one devotee working there, so we know it's authentic. So they are not killing the cows and the bulls, so that is more auspicious. But if we actually look at the construct, here Srila Prabhupada is saying that the bulls are also to be protected. I was watching a video of some people cooking, like mass cooking, right? And I was seeing how they were making jaggery, molasses, right? How they're making that. And so they were crushing the sugar cane, and then they were carrying the sugar cane, and then they were, stirring it in low flame. They were stirring. So I was thinking that in the olden times, this all activity would be done by two bulls. So two bulls would be put in a circle. They'd be attached to a rod, and they would be, whole day, hours. They would just go round and round and round, right? So they would run the crusher, and then this guy would crush, and then you could use it for stirring as well. So I was just thinking that such a simple setup. We didn't need electricity. We didn't need to have solar panels. So the reason why I was bringing this up is in the video this guy was explaining how I have solar panels and I'm, being an organic farm. But that's actually not an organic farm. A true organic farm is what Srila Prabhupada is presenting here. That it is Gaudhanam, meaning that we use the cows for organic farming. And this is very interesting that this concept of cows and herding of cows is even appreciated by modern scientists now. In the Yellowstone Park in US, they were explaining how the rivers had dried up, the foxes had vanished. It's an amusement. I wouldn't call it an amusement park. It's a national park. A lot of people go there for sightseeing. It's a very beautiful place, the Yellowstone Park. And it was being explained that how virtually the animal life and all had been destroyed. So what this person thought was, what is causing this problem, right? And in a similar vein, somewhere in Africa, one person was thinking, why is this land becoming arid? And even in India, I was watching 3 different videos, but they were all talking about similar concepts. So it's interesting when you see 3 different people from 3 different areas of the world come up to a same realization. And so what this person said was he decided to let loose deers or moose, I don't remember what the local animal is there, back into the reservoir. And he was saying that as the hooves were being hit on the ground was loosening. And because the ground started loosening, the shrubs started forming. And when the shrubs started forming, right, slowly the river started accumulating. And the river started accumulating in such a way that the shrubs started pushing and meandering the river. And so he has this video in Yellowstone Park of how over the course of maybe 5 years, he was saying the shrubs came back, the wolves came back, and the virtual habitat started getting restored. So this is his experience in Yellowstone. In Africa, this guy has similar experience. He was saying there was this arid area. So they had some cows and goats. So they started, herding them. And as they were herding, similar concept. Ground started breaking, shrubs started coming out. And similarly in India, this fellow had a similar experience. And so the idea here, and Srila Prabhupada mentions this, when you have cow, naturally grains, you have Gaudhana, Gajadhana, and Bajadhana. So cow wealth of an elephant, Gajadhana, and Bajadhana. And then if you have, granary. And Ratanadhan, and then if you have jewels, right? So this is considered, usually in Vedic, this was considered wealth. And also if you had a lot of children, it was considered you were wealthy. Even in that circumstance, you were considered wealthy. So here, Srila Prabhupada is focusing that if you have cows, you will naturally get grains. The two go hand in hand. But also, in an economic model, you will notice that the real farming that we have to do is for grains. Vegetables will grow naturally. Right? The real actual farming, vegetable and fruits will generally grow by themselves. The actual effort that we have to put is for grains. And that is why even in Bhagavad Gita, that whole cycle is explained how rain comes and then you come down and then the demigods become happy, yada yada, yagnartho come. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that this process is natural. But we have to break ground to grow the grains. That breaking the ground is for us, and that is why in Ekadashi, just passed by, and today Dwadasi, yeah. So today we can have grains. But on Ekadashi, the grains we avoid, because we are saying we are breaking ground, we are doing extra effort, we should avoid that. Right? Because that has karmic reaction, so the body must detox itself from that karmic reaction. So here Srila Prabhupada is expressing the idea that this Gaudhana and this, what do you call, Bhajadhana, this is primarily what we need to survive in the material world. Right? Everything else Krishna will provide. If you go towards St. Leonard's Park, and I forget that area, where that big tomb is, that lest we forget. There you can see rosemary growing, some mint is growing. You can, you can just go and pluck it out. There is a community garden just down this side that they have built, and you can see, the tree. You don't have to put much effort on trees; they grow. Once you have set them up, they grow by themselves. But grains, grains you have to put effort. And in grains, you can get a good harvest or a bad harvest. So there is that balancing act. With vegetable fruits, you generally won't have that. But in grains, you will have good harvest, bad harvest. So that consideration is given. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that this idea that economic model suffices. Which obviously means that farming becomes the primary driver of an economy. And it is interesting that in India right now, there is this big astute fight going on about farmers. In India especially, but in general, farmers, even in Australia, farmers don't get paid a lot, which is quite intriguing in our social structure, that the people who are feeding us are the least paid, and the guys who are making apps on phones are the most paid. So that economic model is not correct. We notice this even amongst police and army, that they're not overtly paid. Their pay is average. But people who are working in standard society, not really contributing to either protection or to feeding. Like in both of these, those people are getting paid more. You'll see in IT, like if you look at the top 10 richest firms in the world, right? Top 10, it'll be Apple, Microsoft, Google, and then you'll get the oil companies. So it's interesting that none of them are to do with eating. You can observe this. That when you look at the Fortune 500, practically you will not see anyone involved in the eating industry. You will see industries in distribution like Walmart. So they take the food and they distribute it, but you will not see their presence in just farming. Just farming as a concept is not there. And so this is interesting to notice. So what we notice when we read the Krishna book is Nanda Maharaj, and because he was the king of the Vaishyas, what they would do is they would have their grains, they would have their milk. Of course, their community was more, the cow community. But then, like this, similar different communities would have their wealth, but then they took care of distribution as well. So it's not like they centralized distribution outside. No, then it was their product, they distributed the product. So at least this is something we can appreciate, that this today, and the good thing about having COVID, right, is this model of centralized supply chain is being questioned. Everyone is questioning this concept of bring everything to China and then spread it out from there. This centralized supply chain. No, it's being questioned. And so Srila Prabhupada here is actually explaining in very simple terms that the economic model that we have can be localized. You can keep it local and it will function. And so this is something that we can appreciate from what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Another aspect of Srila Prabhupada is how the bull is to be treated as father and the cow treated as mother. And this line is very peculiar. I'll read it, right? Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. Oh. It is amazing when we just think, we step back and we absorb this line. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. Right? Now let us absorb this point and let's observe the world. So we are absorbing Srila Prabhupada's point, now we are observing the world. And in our standard observation, we will see that as a nuclear family, this idea of father-mother, you will notice is changing. There is this idea that no, we are equals. right? We have to part, and that is how society is running, and we are all participating in that, right? We are also part of society, so we are participating in this idea. But here it is being explained, no, traditional, so human society had the role of a father, had the role of a mother. Srila Prabhupada mentions how the mother, she took care of the generation, so gave good culture to the children, so that when children grow up, they have good culture. And the father, he would try to make sure that he takes responsibility and earns for that family. So those two concepts are now getting muddled. So the father can become the mother, and the mother can become the father. Now the idea here is, we may look at this and say, oh, is this chauvinistic? No, it's not. What he's trying to explain here is, there must be a role that must be fulfilled. Now, in modern society, it takes two people to fill the role. That's the problem. It's not a chauvinistic statement. It says, both father and mother must earn. Both father and mother must work. And then, take care of the kids. So it is taking two people to fill the role. Whereas in traditional society, one person could fill the role. So once we absorb that, then we can understand that what Srila Prabhupada is saying. It is very interesting that in United States there are quite a lot of Christian conservative commentators. And their take is very in line with this, that the best way for human society to live is traditional marriage. Right? Where the man was given the responsibility, no, you have children, you must take care of them. So he had to provide for them. And then the mother was like, okay, since I now have children, I have to install good culture in them. Right? So in these Christian conservative conversations, they are focusing on this a lot, that no, this marriage, concept of marriage, and that is why they have these big things when they talk about marriage equality and all, so they are always against it. That is because they look at this as a unit, and they feel this unit is breaking. Whereas when we look at this from a Vedic culture, we look at it differently. We say, no, this unit must exist. The question is, how are we fulfilling the unit? Now, if you have to be both father and mother, the emotional disparity is hard. And so the child doesn't know which emotion to go with. You see, it confuses the child. Okay, mother sometimes comes home from work and she's angry. So, what should I do? You see, so the child doesn't know how to deal. And now father is, today father is not working, he's at home. So is father angry today, or is he, going to be motherly today? So the child doesn't know how to deal. Whereas in traditionally, you would see that, the child would, anytime there was a problem, he go run to the mother. Because he knew with the mother, he will get love. Right? But sometimes the mother would get angry, then he would run to the father. But now here what's happening is, if both are, sometimes maybe in a family situation, both parents end up taking the fatherly position, or both end up taking the motherly position. And that becomes weird. Right? In Gopal Champu, it is very nicely described how when, this whole Leela happens of Krishna breaking the tree. And so it is very vividly described by Jiva Goswami, how then everybody comes and Nanda Maharaj is very angry. He's saying, who left this child unattended so that the trees fell on him? So Nanda Maharaj is very angry. Krishna is very angry. He's like, so like, come Krishna, come to father. He's like, yes, daddy. So see, because child is angry, okay, father is angry, so then, the mood matches. So then Krishna is going to Nanda Maharaj and he's sitting. And then he's saying, Mother Yashoda, she kept me under the tree. And so it's very beautifully being described. I'm not doing justice to it, but I was thinking, this is such a nice scene. So Mother Yashoda is now sulking on the side, thinking, I should not have left, Krishna, and then I should not have tied him. Like she's herself contemplating so many things. And so then Nanda Maharaj is saying, oh yeah. And then everyone comes. Like full Vrindavan is there, Purnamasi is there, everybody is there, and they're like, oh, Rohini, Mother Rohini is, Krishna is saying, my mother is Mother Rohini. So it's full emotion, there's a lot of churn of emotion happening. And then Mother Yashoda is also very sad. And then Nanda Maharaj is, angry. But then after some, as the mood goes on, then the mood starts changing. And then Nanda Maharaj says, okay, who will feed you? Who decorates you? And then as Krishna is thinking, he's like, yes, my mother. And then he runs to his mother. So, this traditional construct of, okay, sometimes there is anger and sometimes there is love. Sometimes there is hate and then sometimes there is, what do you call, the removal of hatred. Now there is emotion of support. So all of these we will see in Vrindavan. Right? And so when Srila Prabhupada is mentioning this idea is that this human construct needs to stay. Then human society will progress. And, by having this lockdown, families were forcefully, meant to sit in one house and deal with each other. I was in university and I was asking some, kids, so how did you guys tackle lockdown? And he says that for the first time I was with my parents for, let's say, 6 days. Continuous, consecutive. He says, once you start going to school, you see, 8 hours in school, tuition, computers, maybe you meet your family, you spend time 4 or 5 hours. But he was saying now it was like you're just at home. What do you do? So now you have to deal more with your parents. So that's happening, and hopefully the human society, we as general, we take up this idea that we should have designated roles, and in any situation we should notice that one must take one position. Sometimes if mother is angry, then father should be calm. It's not like both father mother become angry. No, one should be calm, one should be angry. We should always have the yin and the yang, right? So that is Srila Prabhupada's point. Then separately here, and this is interesting as I was reading the purport. Srila Prabhupada mentions the various colors of the cows and the bulls, right? This red, black, green, yellow, ash. I've never seen a green cow, but there must be one. Right, reddish, blackish, yellowish, ash color, but green, there must be a green cow. I know there is this Nilgiri, so sometimes it looks a bit greenish. It looks greenish, but it's actually blue in color, but it looks greenish, but they do milk the Nilgiri from what I've heard. Maybe I heard it wrong, but I've heard that they milk Nilgiri. So the idea being that this multicolored facet in society is there even in animals. That is the first point to notice. So therefore in human society, nowadays there is this big talk about racism, various colored people being looked down upon in US now. They just finished Black Lives Matter, and now there have been attack on Asians. So now this new thing is starting in US about Asians are being attacked. So you will notice this yellow, like the terms that are being used is yellow skin, so these terminologies are being used. But when we take it back from the spiritual world, we'll see Krishna is multicolored, the avatars are multicolored, and so human society also is multicolored. So this idea about having various colored people is natural. We see Pandu was yellow skinned because of him being diseased. And so we see ash color. We will see when they say Vyasadeva comes, he was ash in color. When he arrives in the scene. So, different colored people. And so the idea here being, and the reason why I'm picking up this idea of cow and bull, is that when we are thinking economics, when we think economically, we don't worry about the color of people. Right? We look at who does the best work. Right? Because that's economics, right? So, even in social dealing, we have to have that value system. That if somebody has good value, we take that. And this idea about sometimes making fun of someone's color, we notice this come from the spiritual world itself. The gopis make fun of Krishna's color. Oh Krishna, you're black. Right? So, you're black. Right? So Krishna is like, what? I'm black. Krishna goes to Mother Yashoda, why am I black? So there's a beautiful poetry. I forget how it goes, but it's something like, my dear Mother Yashoda, why am I black? Main kyu kala? Maya Mori? No, not Maya Mori. That is Yashomati Nandana Puche Nandalal. Radha kyun gori? Main kyu kala? Like, why is Radha Rani so fair? And Radha Rani, when we say fair, she's like golden. Right? So why is she like that? Why is she Gauri, and why am I black? And of course, we see Lord Chaitanya take the form of Gauri. He becomes Gauranga. So these things are happening. This bantering is happening even in the spiritual world. And so the point being made is sometimes even in standard human society this banter is done. But the idea here is that we should not have malice in the banter. Sometimes we can distinguish, oh, you're this color and you're this color. That distinguishing is there. But if there is hatred in that color distinguishing, that's a problem. And today in modern society, or at least when we are looking at the culture, hatred is practically in everything. There is just, we just need a reason. If you see in US, this Republican and Democratic, the polarization that has taken place, right? They hate virtually everything, including color. So apart from color, there's just hatred all across. So some people are saying, hang on, there is not that much hatred in society. Not that much hatred. Like there would have been hatred. We're not saying it isn't there. But in current modern society, that hatred levels are down. So there is no point in fueling that hatred level. Right? No, instead we should recognize that human society today is moving into a value system. Of course, today unfortunately our value system is economic. Right? It's an economic value system. But traditionally, our value system was not economic. It's actually built on guna and karma. Like that's how we built our society. Okay, these are his qualities, these are his activities. So based on that, there is a value system. Right? Kshatriyas got paid the most. You see, the Brahmanas were the topmost. They didn't get paid. They never got paid. Right? Kshatriyas got paid. Vaishyas made the most money. Okay, and the Shudras worked for what they had, and it was a skill system, right? Nowadays we have schools. I was watching a video, and I showed this to my wife. She's a dentist, so I showed her there is this guy who's sitting on the street in India, right? And he fixes cycles, and he was making this amazing denture. Like, so what happens is there are these poor laborers. They can't go to a dentist because it costs $30,000, $50,000 to make a denture. So they go to this guy. He's like he works with metal, but he knows how to mold things. So he's what he's doing, like literally sitting on the side of the road. He's checking this man, and he's making a denture for the man on the side of the road. And my wife was looking and she was saying, that's a really good denture. Like the quality of the denture is very good. And so this is something we can appreciate. Like what we can observe, and this is the concept of Shudra. So the concept of Shudra was that you don't need to go to school. So traditionally only Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and some Vaishyas went to Gurukul. Shudras didn't go. Because they're like, hey, I don't want to study. I'm interested in being an accountant. I'm interested in being a dentist. Like, I want to pick up a certain skill. So, if you want to pick up that certain skill, then you work in that skill. It's a skill, right? And so, by picking up a line of a particular skill, human society can work. You don't need to go to 20 years of school and then say, now I am skilled. No, your skill is there. If you are around that skill, you will pick up that skill. And then you just have to fine tune the skill. Right, so of course, even in the system of the Shudras, there is this idea that you have to fine tune, you have to learn, you have to practice, you have to go back, you have to fix, you have to improve. So that Six Sigma process of always cause continuous improvement is there even in the Shudra system. It is there, however, within the Brahmana, Kshatriya, and to some extent Vaishyas, not to a lot. The idea of Gurukul system was, no, education is meant to build your culture and to make you realize, like at least for the Kshatriyas, that you have to give up your life in battle. You would never ask a Shudra to do that, because the Shudra was skill based, and skill based means he's pranamoya. He's interested in his life and his immediate family's life. He's pranamoya. But the idea for Gurukul system, so Annamoya and Pranamoya, you don't need to go to Gurukul. You don't need to be educated, right? Your standard society will work. But then when you want to go to the other, build your consciousness up, for that you need education. But of course today's education system is to build Shudras. Right? What do you call, I was seeing my son's school curriculum, and there they were like, oh, we'll teach you coding so that you know what to do in life and in your career. You see, their focus. Like the teacher was explaining in school what they're teaching. Most of their focus is about teaching subjects, right? They do have some morals. It's not like they don't teach morals, but they don't spend time in teaching morals. Whereas your traditional Gurukul system will focus only on morals. Know your morality, know your moral. And it is because of this reason why Duryodhan was not considered a good person. Because after educating so much in morality, going through full Gurukul system, he was not moral. So that's why he was not considered a better king than Yudhishthira. But in saying that, Duryodhan is a much better king than all of us. So if you talk about that, he is very moral, right? But in comparison to Yudhishthira, he was not very moral. So it's a system of comparison. And so this something we can take out from here is that the education system needs to focus on building culture, not on building skills. But today it's about building skills. And finally, Srila Prabhupada does focus on the 4 qualities that are unique to Krishna: Venu Madhuri, Rupa Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, and Prema Madhuri. His flute is the most exquisite, flute playing. His pastimes are the most exquisite. His devotees are the most exquisite, and his form obviously is the most exquisite. So the ornaments of Krishna. And so in knowing these 4 things, there is, at least for us, we can think, oh, I am an ornament of Krishna. What is the one quality that betters Krishna from all other avatars? What is that? Oh, yes, it is this quality of devotees. When we will see Lord Shiva, his devotees, goblins, ghosts, they are not very attractive, right? When we have Vishnu, when we look at Lord Vishnu's devotees, we see stricture, Jaya Vijaya, you cannot enter, you cannot have, something interesting is, I'm trying to remember where this is. I think this is in Garuda Puran. I think it was in Garuda Puran, where they are talking about assemblies, who has the best assembly. And the devotees are discussing and they are like, oh, this assembly house is the best, or this assembly. Then they come to Dwaraka and they are like, oh, this assembly house is the best. Then they go to Indraloka, oh, this assembly house. They go to Brahma. Finally, Brahma saying, no, mine is not the, Lord Vishnu's is the best. Now when they go to Lord Vishnu, and when I say Lord Vishnu, we're talking Mahavishnu here, right? We're not talking Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, we're talking Mahavishnu here, right? So they go to him, they're saying, oh, his assembly hall. And we see in Krishna book that even Krishna and Arjuna go to the same assembly hall. They also arrive there, right, to bring the Brahmana's sons back. So anyway, it's a big story, but they go there and Mahavishnu saying, no, there is a better place. And then they come to Vrindavan. Now when they come to Vrindavan, then there are 2 cowherd boys with sticks, Sridham, and I think it was Subala, I don't remember. I know Sridham was there was another. Or was it Madhumangal? Okay, Sridham and somebody, maybe Subala. And with 2 sticks, they're like, hey, where are you coming? To whom? To Mahavishnu. So, I'm just trying to explain, right? So, exquisite qualities of devotees, right? Jaya Vijay tried the same thing, right? Jaya Vijay tried to stop the 4 Kumaras, they get cursed. But look here, look at the variance here. All of these guys have come to Vrindavan, and Mahavishnu is leading, and the boys are saying, hey, where are you coming? Stand here. One of them was saying that, we are watching you, we will go check with Krishna if you can enter. Vrindavan. And talking about Vrindavan, we see Gaudhana. That entire Vrindavan area is called Sweta Dvipa. And it is explained that Sweta is because these cows, milk is just flowing such that it becomes an ocean and a river. So the entire planetary system is filled with milk from these cows. So this is Gaudhana. When we're talking Gaudhana, the spiritual world is filled. Sweta Dvipa is because of this. So you guys have that yantra upstairs of all that. The top yantra, all of that milk, that entire milk, Sweta, is from cows. And this is in Gopal Champu. Jiva Goswami explains this very vividly, how the Vrindavan forms because of the milk of this cows. Very, like in the first chapter, he very vividly explains this. He spends, I think, an entire chapter talking about Vrindavan, its setup. Just an entire chapter just discussing that, right? And so, now back to what we were talking about is then these boys. Now you can't curse these boys. You see, this is the difference. The devotees, you can't curse these people. No, these guys can't be cursed. So he said, you stay there. Right? and then of course they call Krishna, and then everyone enters, and then all of them agree, yes, Vrindavan is the best. So they all agree, because they are saying that the sticks that these kids are, that they're using to, hit the cows with, those sticks, they have like chintamani and, jewels in them. And these kids are just hitting cows with it and then throwing the sticks down. So, very, very opulent. The place is very opulent. And Uddhava also, when he enters Vrindavan, he sees that opulence. This opulence that we are discussing, and Uddhava enters Vrindavan, he sees this opulence. Oh, as he's entering, he's seeing the pillars are made with, Audharya jewels. The cow shed has jewels. So, and then the cows, he's saying that so much dust was forming as the cows are running. It's a very opulent place. Like, he's seeing the opulence. Then, of course, when he starts meeting everyone, he sees the sadness. When he meets the devotees, he sees the sadness. But when you look at it, you observe, you're like, man, this is very opulent. And so here, that Leela, so one thing at least for us is we're like, okay, we are the ornaments of Krishna. So this should explain to us that we have to, improve our character. Because we are, it looks bad that, we are the rotten grape. If we say, okay, this person has the best grapes. And we come there and we see rotten grapes, you're like, oh, he doesn't have the best grapes. Right? So similarly, sometimes when people are coming to temple, devotees are now launching devotee care in the temple. And every Sunday they discuss about devotee care. And why is there this focus on devotee care? Is because we are considered the ornaments of Krishna. We are that, unique quality. So if we have bad character, then naturally people will be like, oh, these Hare Krishnas are not good. Now we may think, why are these people so worried about me? They should read Bhagavatam. Yes, agreed. No denying that. They should read Bhagavatam. At the same time, if the character is not good, that is the unique quality of Krishna. So if that uniqueness goes, then there is no value. So we have to appreciate that, right? So that is Prema Madhuri. Rupa Madhuri, of course, what can we talk about Krishna's threefold bending form? Leela Madhuri, Krishna's pastimes, and then Venu Madhuri, his flute. It's explained that in Gopal Champu also this is explained that when Krishna plays his flute, everything freezes. So, Vraja means dynamic. Right? So one of the meaning of Vraja is dynamic. So it's a Vraja Dham stops. It's dynamic, but it stops. It's explained that the grass stops moving. Everything goes still. Yamuna stops flowing. So, just imagine the entire thing freezes as Krishna plays his flute. Then looking at this, Balram thinks, oh, what's going on? So he plays his bullhorn and everything starts moving again. So that's how it works. So he's like, hey, why is everything frozen? So in Gopal Champu, this is being described. But the idea here being that Krishna's flute is very beautiful. And another intriguing thing of Krishna's flute is that Krishna is the only incarnation. So when we say Krishna, meaning we are talking about Krishna related incarnation. Lord Krishna, Jagannath, Gaura Nitai are the only incarnations where there is no weaponry in the altar. No weaponry in the altar. Otherwise every other incarnation, every other demigod that is being described will have weaponry. Lord Shiva will have his Trishul. He will have an instrument, like he will have his Damru. He plays his little drum. But he will have his weapon as well. Right? Of course, Lord Vishnu has the two weapons, two for devotees and two for demons. He has his weapons plus his, benediction. But Krishna, he only has his flute. Right? So that's why the flute becomes so unique. That he doesn't show weapons. Krishna doesn't show weapons. He just shows his flute. So that is something we appreciate. So yeah, I'll end here. Oh wow. Jai. Today I went overtime. Okay. Jai, so yeah. Devotees want to share something? This is a nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. And of course, if you read the translation, it is so simple that without his Srila Prabhupada's purport, there would be nothing to discuss. Any devotee want to share something? No? Alright, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.